Today I'm going to talk about how to build up a process to develop anything, not just art. But this is applicable. You can paste this onto anything. How to make a process. What I'm going to show you is, it comes out of my experiences, that what I have done, and it comes out of how I have seen what other people have done, and some of it also is like standard ways of doing, like project management, that you would also find in business. And I will talk also about budget and business, because that is something that we can't look away from. I mean, this is a little bit what you're worried about, the future. And why are we worried about the future? Well, how can I make a living? How can I earn money? Or do what I want. If I want to do something, whatever it is, how can I make money? So that's what I'm gonna try to explain. You must look at this and see that this maybe not fit all of you, and then you can change things a bit. But there are certain ways in it that are generally good and sound ways, and and there are ways that are just not good, that does not work. So I'm going to show you that, and I think you have experienced that already as well. So. If we look into, if you think about photography, not as you having a studio shooting product photography for big corporations, or you're a fashion photographer, or whatever you do, portrait photography. If you're a documentary photographer, or if you're an art photographer or an artist, that you work with anything that is an art form. How do you, whatever field you work in there, you will also, you have this that you work for commissions, that you have a little business, a studio, where it says, I'm making the industrial photography. And then you get jobs, or you might work for a photographer that does that. That is very, what you do then is that you deliver a service. It's like having any other job. It's like selling potatoes or rice. It's the same. You sell a product, you sell a service. And there's a demand for that, and if they like what you're doing, you get jobs there. So you don't really exhibit your work there. However, a lot of people in that business, they also show their works in galleries. In galleries or in photo agencies, which is usually an archive of images where people can go and look for images they need to whatever they want. So how do you, if we look at, and do you understand the business, how it works? If you have a studio. If you have a studio that says industrial photography, I make product photography. Do you know how the business works? What you do? You probably have, you are in a business, you have probably, before you open that business up, you have probably worked for another photographer as an assistant or something. Or maybe all of you can start a studio together, and you are industrial photographers incorporated or something. And then you make advertising, you go out and talk to people, and you call Samsung, you call Kia, and all those people that you might want to have as clients. And one day Kia comes and says, can you take a photograph of a new car model? And you say, yeah, sure. And you do that. And you deal about a fee. This is going to cost you 20 million won, and we're going to make these photographs. And then hopefully that business rolls on. And that's the same thing as having a car company. You sell cars. Like, you buy some cars and you sell them and you make money. So that's a kind of a very sort of understandable way of making money. If you are a photographer as an artist, or if you want to sell your photography through galleries, it's a little bit different. And do you know, if you look at art, do you know what a gallery is, an art gallery? How does an art gallery work? Good, Mo. Any ideas? Well, an art gallery, have you been to an art gallery? You've been. An art gallery, a commercial art gallery that sells art, photographies, whatever it is. They work as follows. There is a person who has the gallery, or people. That's a business. Their idea is to sell art or sell photographies. And if you want to make a lot of money in that business, you can do one thing. You can have a gallery that sells a lot of cheap photographs, really cheap photographs. But then you have to have maybe thousands of photographers that produce art for you, or photographs for you, or art. Those galleries are not the galleries I'm talking about. That's sort of that's actually an industry I would not recommend you to enter, because personally I think it's not interesting. The big one galleries, if you look at Cookje Gallery or 1&J Gallery, we can look at 1&J Gallery, which is a sort of upper mid-level gallery here in Seoul. And they also represent a lot of artists, quite a few artists who actually studied here at the photo department at Chungde. And they sell their art all over the world, in America, in Hong Kong, and in Europe. They don't go in to have a lot of artists. They will maybe have 10 artists, or 20, maximum 20 artists. And they will go to someone and say, hey, yeah, we're interested in your work. You can, and we want to have an exhibition with you. If you do an exhibition there and you make money, they're going to say, okay, we want to keep you in here, and they make a contract with you. So you belong, you sort of belong to that gallery. And the gallery is interested in your work to be as expensive as possible. Because how do you put a price on an artwork? Let's say that I'm a very famous artist. Let's say that I am Marcel Duchamp. He's there, but this is the kind of artwork. He would call this an artwork, and he would say, that's an artwork. How much is it worth?
1 million.
1 million one. Yeah. Well, the pen is worth what? 5,000 won maybe, or 2,000 won. It's a cheap pen. If I make an artwork of it, if I'm really, really famous, like if I was Ai Weiwei, do you know who that is? The Chinese artist, Ai Weiwei?
Yes.
If he did this, if he said this is an artwork, I don't think 1 million won would be enough. I don't think 10 million won would be enough. I think Ai Weiwei would sell something of this size for maybe 50 million won. And why is that? I cannot sell it for that. I personally, if I go into a gallery and I say that this is an artwork, I could probably sell it for 1 million won. That's how little my name is worth. But Ai Weiwei's name, because he's a brand, he's a name, makes this worth a lot more money. And that makes art very similar to stock, to shares. It's about you gamble on the expectation of the value of the product to rise. I mean, it's the same if you have this industrial photo studio, the bigger name you have, the more famous you are, the higher price you can put.
You understand?
If you take,
This is,
well, if you take,
this is, you understand?
let's say a Volkswagen, I'm just using these two German car makes now. If you use a Volkswagen and if you use a Mercedes, basically those cars are as good.
Everything
Like Prestanda, unless you buy the biggest, fastest Mercedes that costs 1.5 million euros, because that's a racing car, basically. But if you just take a standard Mercedes and a standard Volkswagen, if you look at them, they're exactly the same. But the Mercedes is maybe almost twice as expensive as the Volkswagen. And why is that? The name, the Mercedes, the star, because they say this is the coolest car, and that's why you have to pay for that. Or if you want to buy a Lenovo computer, it costs very little money. But if you want to buy an Apple, it costs a lot of money. And we buy Apple products because of that thing. And maybe we like the design, but what's inside it is the same. And
filming all the process.
this is actually a Samsung. The screen. So much for branding. But branding is very, very important when it comes to art. So the gallerist wants a person who can deliver that extra value. Of course, when you come out of
Things look similar.
a university,
And
you probably don't have a big name.
And Cindy Sherman.
And everyone knows that. The galleries knows that.
Cindy Sherman.
So they have to pick some galleries, like if you take Kukche Gallery, which is like the top ranking gallery here in Seoul, one of the top, or Aurario. They would never ever touch someone who comes out of an art school. That they wouldn't do that. They would maybe eventually touch someone that had exhibited at 1&J Gallery and reached and maybe reached a world fame, and maybe shown in a 1&J and 1&J's similar gallery in London and a similar gallery in New York. Then Aurario would say, okay, you can show with us. Because they are only picking from the top levels of the art world. Because they put their prices even higher. So when it comes to the art market, it's a lot about how much money can you actually make this thing cost, and how much can you build up the name of the person who makes that to make it worth that money. Because it's not about the money, the value of the it's not about the production. If that was a fantastic photograph mounted on plexiglass in a nice silver frame and whatever, the production cost could be, I don't know, 2 million won maybe, just to produce it, to hang it, to put it there. You don't sell it for that. You have to sell it for a lot more to make a profit. If I did it, I could sell it for 6 million won. If Ai Weiwei did it, he could sell it for $100,000 maybe, or $200,000. Probably $200,000 if it's Ai Weiwei. And that is just because the name. So the gallerists look for people, and now I have now painted up an image that's probably going to scare you even more. But everyone starts on the little place. Everyone starts in the small place. Some of you and some people that come out of art colleges and universities have a better network already, because who you are, where you come from, who your friends are, who your parents are, where you're born, all these normal social things in society. That they, of course, there's no difference in the art world. So if you have privileges, you are further ahead than others. But there are also ways around that. So how does 1 and J, because this, I'm using 1 and J, you should go, that's a good gallery, so you should go and look at it. They make really good shows. And they're also really interesting because they have an experimental gallery that they recently opened, like a project room, where they would probably be interested in showing you next year. And I'm not joking, they could even be interested in showing you right now. But how do you get there? And last year we went to 1 and J and we had a chat, there was a graduate students last year, we had a chat with the gallerist, and he told, and I think that gallery has been around maybe 10 years, I can't remember. They started out also from scratch. I mean, the guys who run that, they have money, so they could invest a lot of money in the gallery, and they had a sort of a network. But they had to go out and look for what artists do we want to show. So they went out and looked for artists. They were active looking for artists, and then they found artists that they liked and that they also thought could be people who could produce enough art. Because in the beginning, artists don't have that. In the beginning, they are like, you can sell this for a little bit more than it's worth. But you build that up together. You as an artist, you have to kind of create a name. In the beginning, it's not going to be about making a lot of money, because that's not really the thing in the beginning. But what the galleries then are looking for, and this is directly from the galleries at 1 and J, and he says, and all galleries of his level say the same thing. We are interested in people that are active, meaning that you should make exhibitions, that you do exhibitions. And we're also interested in people who produce, that have a lot of things to show. Because, of course, they want to see a person that has energy. Because they're going to invest money in you. They're not going to. Some galleries even would give you money for production. Here is money to print photographs. They're going to invest money in you. Of course, they want that back. It's business. It's not charity. It's business. So they want that back. And if they see, okay, we like this person, we like the personality, we like the work that person does, that person also frequency, smaller galleries, small exhibitions, but actually is active. And when we go and see, when we went to talk to that artist, went to that artist's home or that artist's studio, or we looked at that artist's portfolio, we saw that this person has a lot of work, which means that this person can produce, and it's probably something that we can. If someone if you look at like someone's portfolio and say, okay, this person has a lot of work, you can think, okay, that person will probably do a lot of work in the future as well. If you look at that portfolio and there's very little, then you would go, that person probably won't do that much. Some of you will do few artworks because you make very complicated and complex artworks, but then you can tell that from the structure. So that's what they are interested in. When you're going to step into commercial work, because in the beginning you have to understand that you probably won't make much money from your art the first year or two. You make, some of you might, but most of you will not make any money, and it will cost money, and it will cost time. But then, after 1 year, after 2 years, after 3 years, then you will enter the commercial scene, and maybe on a lower level first, and then in your life you hopefully step up so you can make money. Most of us won't come up to the big money. We will be in some sort of middle class of artists and photographers. But as long as it's fun, as long as we find it interesting, that's good enough. We can make a living from it. So that is what you have to think about now, really. And this is an advice my professors gave me.